I bonds, which are backed by the United States government, about as safe as investments get as things are backed by the US government, they're paying 9.62%. That's like amazing. And with that margin of safety, it's a great investment. Maybe not for everyone. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about 6 things you need to know to decide if maybe I bonds are right for you. And if they are, they could be one of the best investments you could make this year. Welcome to the channel where we help you to learn fast so you can become a confident and successful investor. If that sounds good to you, hey, do consider hitting that subscription button or checking out the free courses and courses we have in the description below. All right, so I bonds, 9.62%. That's like what stocks historically pay, around 10.5% in a bond, in a safe bond backed by the US government. It almost sounds like a no-brainer, and really kind of is a no-brainer, but there are 6 things, can I do this right? 6 things you need to know. So let's start with number 1. First, that 9.62% rate, that's good through October of this year, October of 2022. And then it will adjust, all right? So you're not locking in for long periods. It's going to keep adjusting. In October, it's going to adjust again, and that adjustment is based on inflation. So if inflation rises, your I bond payout is going to rise. If your inflation decreases, then what your I bond is going to pay will decrease as well, too. And there's a formula around that. So it's I bonds are kind of related to inflation, thus inflation type bonds. And for that 9.62, it's going to change in October. If you think inflation is going to continue to rise, I kind of think it will, or at least steady off. It's not going to certainly drop quickly. You know, I think you're going to continue to get a good rate. Which leads to the second thing of the 6 things you need to know, is that the interest on I bonds are compounded semi-annually. So that means every 6 months from the bond's issue date, the interest is going to change, right? Your rate's going to change. The interest that's been earned in the 6 previous months is added to the principal, what you originally invested. So that's in there, and so you keep that, and then you'll have a new interest rate for the next 6 months. Once that happens, then that's locked in, and so on and so on. So your interest rate is basically, compounding on top of that principal, your original principal, and as your investment grows. And it's doing this every 6 months, so that's a good thing. And again, it's related to inflation. All right, so a couple other things. You can cash in and redeem your bond after 12 months. So you can't buy it and sell it within 30 days. You have to hold on to it for 12 months. And then there's a catch to that too, which is number 4, and this is very important. However, if you redeem your bond before 5 years, then you lose the last 3 months of interest that you earned, that you forfeit that as a penalty. So let's think about that. If I buy an I bond, I'm locked in for a year. If I sell my I bond after a year, but before 5 years, the last 3 months of interest, I lose that completely. It's just gone. And if I sell any time before the 5th year, whatever was the last 3 months, I would lose. So if I had invested for 4 years, I would basically get 3 years and 9 months worth of interest on that. So if you hold for the full 5 years, then you can get all your principal back. You can always get all your principal back. You can get all the interest you've earned and everything you've gained if you hold it for 5 years. So it's designed to be more of a longer time holding thing that'll adjust for inflation. So 5 years from now, 2 years from now, inflation might be lower and you might be getting a lower amount on your bond. So you can make that decision. But that number 4 is very important. In number 3, you can redeem or cash it in after 12 months, but understand that if you do cash it in before 5 years, you'll lose those last 3 months of interest. Number 5, there's limits. Oh, I wish there wasn't. Especially if I want something real safe and I want to hold it for a long time, especially the 5 years, but there's limits. So the limit is $10,000 US per individual. You can actually, there's a way to get around if you use your tax refund. You can actually get an extra $5,000, and you have to get it in paper. It gets real squirrely or weird. But if you have a bigger than $5,000 tax refund, and you want to use your tax refund to buy I bonds, and you already are doing the $10,000, you can get an extra $5,000 for a total of $15,000. So that's a way to kind of get around it too as well. Also, if you have a partner or a spouse, you both can get your own I bonds. So like my wife and I, we got I bonds. I got 10, she got 10. Now we got 20 in our big pot of money, me and the lovely Mrs. Helena, Mrs. B. So, but just think you're limited to $10,000 by that. And then number 6 is very important, is who can buy I bonds. And all this information is at treasurydirect.gov, by the way, where you buy directly from the U.S. Treasury. I'll have that in the link so in the description below, so you can go right to it. And you can set up an account and buy right directly from the government. You don't have to set up a brokerage account or anything. You buy right from the U.S. government. But who can buy I bonds? Not everybody can. So you need to be a United States citizen, whether you're living in the US or you might be living abroad. Maybe you're living in Costa Rica or wherever. If you're a US citizen, you can buy I bonds. If you're a US resident, you can also buy I bonds if you're a resident of the United States. And if you're a civilian employee of the United States, no matter where you live, if you're an employee of the United States, you can buy I bonds. I think that might mean that even if you're not a citizen, but you're an employee of the US government, maybe you work in a diplomatic office in your home country, you might have the ability to look at I bonds. So buy I bonds. So look at treasurydirect.gov as far as those rules around there. Now, one thing too to be aware of is that I bonds are not transferable. There was a neat little thing. This is like a bonus. That's number 7. That was a little kind of weird thing I didn't know was going on actually. Where there was a question, the frequently asked questions at treasury.gov, where it said, this is the question. I noticed savings bonds are being sold through auction sites such as eBay, but I thought ownership was non-transferable. How does that work? And then this is from the government site, and this is what they said. Sometimes they're sold as souvenirs, but however, by regulation, a savings bond ownership is not transferable, right? So the Treasury, United States Treasury, is a contractual relationship with the owner or co-owners named on the bond, not the person who bought it at auction. So I love this part. Because of this, the person buying it at an auction or on eBay, in effect, she just purchased a piece of paper showing a bond that is still the property of the owner or co-owners named on the bond. So if I was a shifty kind of guy, I'd say, hey, give me $9,000 and I will give you my $10,000 I bond. I would never do this, but a person could. And you're like, oh, I'll take your $9,000. You thought you made an extra $1,000 just by buying a $10,000 I bond. Really what you did is you bought a piece of paper for $9,000 that's worthless, and I still have my I bond and your $9,000. So don't buy I bonds on eBay is the answer to that, or any type of auction site. Only buy directly from treasury.gov is where you buy your I bonds, buying them directly.